The Indiana Jones movies are a mixed bag, but there is absolutely a fair case to be made for every single one of them being someone's favourite. For every Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's a Temple of Doom. One introduced an iconic character and explored the idea of approaching a divine truth with either humility or arrogance. The other, well, it's pretty racist, isn't it? Look, there's always going to be a recently divorced bloke to sing its praises. I'm going to leave that to them. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull makes great strides to innovate, presenting us our hero woefully out of step with the changing world as he begrudgingly rediscovers himself through his role as a mentor and a father. Dial of Destiny then takes this a step further, dealing with loss, missed opportunities, and how oppressively punishing the weight of time can feel. Oh, look at me, I'd rather hang around with a load of fucking dead guys than just, I don't know, go and speak to my wife. Look, what I'm trying to say is for all the complaints, oh, why do you do aliens, blah, 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 the only thing that you can never ever convince me of is that these are bad movies, because they're not. Steven Allen Spielberg, aka fucking God, put these things together with such immaculate attention to detail. The visual storytelling is flawless, the shot compositions are electric and exciting, the action is genuinely fun, and the most clear-cut example of this, to me at least, is The Last Crusade. Indiana Jones, James Bond, a match made in heaven, throw them together, chuck in every single fucking cool idea that you can possibly think of, and what are you left with? I don't know, one of the best blockbusters of all time? The themes of this movie are genuinely beautiful to me, and even more beautiful is how Big Steve communicates his ideas without distilling a single element of the film. You get your pulpy action, you get your lighter tone, you get your breakneck pace, nothing is sacrificed here whatsoever. And by the end of an incredibly entertaining couple of hours, you're left with this emotionally dense story of a reconciled familial relationship, all tied into the Holy Grail, and how Big Steve rejects the concept of immortality to suggest that what truly makes a life worth living is not its length, but the dedication you show to what truly matters the most to you. Immortality is a selfish, unending goal to strive for. It's far more worthwhile to exercise restraint and make the most of a limited life, because the very fact that it's fleeting is what makes it worth living. Right from the jump, Big Spiely B spells out exactly what he's trying to say with this film. Once Rev. Indiana Phoenix has finished working his way through the train carriages of character traits, picking up his scar, his fear of snakes, his whip, his hat, everything, he encounters a dripped out fella who clearly leaves an impression on him.
He stole that guy's vibe.
People are quick to mock this like they do that infamous Han Solo moment in the Solo film, right? Where the guy in the little thing is like, oh, you're by yourself? You must be Han Solo then. But where this film differs is that to its core, it's actually examining identity. It's not just doing that stupid thing where a film is like, we got to explain everything, don't leave a single stone unturned. We see that Indiana Jones's whole persona is a construction, but most importantly, we can see why. This opening 13-ish minutes is just Indy discovering that identity doesn't have to be something you inherit, but rather something you can forge for yourself. I love the way Henry Sr. is framed in this bit. I mean, anyone with a pair of ears can recognize the iconic voice, right? But we're held at arm's length. We're put into the shoes of a timid kid whose father is completely unknowable to him. We see his little doodles in the Grail diary. We hear all about him a bit later on from Donovan, and just like Indy, our primary association with him becomes his obsessive nature. We actually don't see his face until we're 47 minutes into this movie.
What?
And the dedication to that build-up pays off tenfold once we see how Harrison Ford just reverts into a bumbling little boy in his presence. It's so smart to withhold Big Sean because it leaves us only knowing one thing about him. Our relationship with him is as stunted as it is with his own son. Unlike Raiders, where Indy is often isolated within the frame to emphasize his competence and mythic status, The Last Crusade frequently places Indy and his father in the same shot together. Whether it's the bike sidecar, whether they're squished into a tank, or standing side by side solving puzzles or shooting bad guys or whatever, they're often squeezed into quite tight compositions. The camera physically forces them into the same space, reflecting how the adventure itself is forcing them to reconnect, and by the end of the film, these shared compositions feel a hell of a lot warmer than they do at the beginning, and that's because their relationship changed. Spielberg uses their physical proximity as a metaphor for their internal closeness to one another. The filmmaking ensures that we notice their reconciliation, or at least kind of subconsciously register it, as opposed to just having it explained to us. A hallmark of good direction is coordinating multiple ideas and elements into a unified experience. In The Last Crusade, the music, the performances, the editing, the production design, the camera work all seem to be serving the same story, and this thing is somehow balancing the excitement of a blockbuster adventure, the emotional depth of a family story, and the thematic weight of a spiritual parable. Spiely B directs the shit out of this movie, so much so that these layers support one another, and the result kind of gives you a movie that works as a really fun ride on the first go-around, but in repeat viewings reveals itself to have deeper ideas about faith, humility, greed, and reconciliation. In other words, every single time you watch this thing, you're gonna notice something different, or you're gonna be emotionally moved in a different way. It's excellent. Take Elsa, for example, who on the first viewing is a pretty clear-cut villain, but repeat viewings reveal this tragedy surrounding her character. She lies to Indy, she's revealed as a Nazi, and she even has sex with a father and son duo, which is just grim. But she is revealed as someone who genuinely loves history, but just lacks the moral conviction that Indiana Jones has. She's sort of a dark parallel to what Indiana Jones could be if he gave less of a shit. Throughout the film, she repeatedly hesitates, she admires Indy, she dislikes Nazi brutality because at one point they're all burning books and she's like, this sucks or whatever, I don't like this. And yet she's such a disappointing character because time and time again she has the right to choose between conscience and ambition, and she just lets ambition win every time without a second thought to anyone else. Her death literally comes from her refusing to let go. On first viewing, Henry's notebook can kind of just be seen as a bit of exposition, but I do think that on repeat viewings it takes on the mantle of inherited knowledge. Near the end of the film, Indiana Jones literally can't succeed without accepting what his father has learned, which means that he kind of needs to put his disdain for his dad on the back burner, because without the years that his dad spent studying this, he would not be able to get anyone out of this scenario alive. And in direct conversation with that, Henry eventually realizes that knowledge isn't enough, and despite putting his head down in his book for so many years, it won't be enough to carry him through. Indiana Jones needs his dad as much as his dad needs him. And I think it's quite poetic that the embodiment of this thing that kept them apart for so long is actually what brings them together in the end. Some might see the Holy Grail as just the film's central MacGuffin, the thing that they've got to go and find, the result of the fetch quest. But I think the film also quietly critiques archaeology as possession. A recurring question that the film asks is, what does it mean to find history? And the answers to that question differ from character to character. Donovan wants to own it, the Nazis want to exploit it, Henry wants to study it, Marcus wants to preserve it, and Indiana Jones just kind of wants to understand it. I love the message of the Grail Knight at the end, who spent centuries guarding the Grail rather than using it himself, suggesting that some treasures are just meant to be protected rather than possessed. Every action scene also reveals character in a really interesting way. The motorcycle chase isn't just this big getaway action scene. I mean, it is, and it's great at doing that, right? But instead, it's also serving as a look into Indy and his dad's poor attempt at working together. This unimpressed reaction from Connery always kills me, right? But the Zeppelin and the subsequent plane scrap, they open our eyes to Henry's emotionally absent yet academically gifted mind. He can't shoot a plane down with a literal gun, but his quick thinking and a quote from Charlemagne or whatever,
I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne,
will do the trick just fine. What I'm saying is the film doesn't stop escalating its ideas simply because there's cool distractions on screen. Boat chases, fiery tombs, wherever they find themselves, the set pieces, whilst incredibly fun, always play second fiddle to the more interesting ideas in the script. On paper, this should feel relentless. The trains, the catacombs, the boats, the castle, the bikes, the tank, the trials, Jesus Christ. This movie is trying to break records in momentum, but the neat thing is that it never feels overwhelming or tiring. The action is built around clear chains of cause and effect, with one problem naturally leading into the next, which gives the sequences a sense of momentum and playfulness, but also, he constantly varies the rhythm, alternating tension, action, comedy, and relief so the audience never become exhausted or numb to it. It never feels overwhelming. In many ways, The Last Crusade is kind of the comfort food of Indiana Jones, right? It's fun, it's safe, it's enjoyable. Raiders is probably a leaner film, probably a better film, but the third outing just combines everything that almost everyone loves about these films. It brings the factor, which, as you know, stands for action, adventure, history, humor, and heart. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on it. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a little thumbs up, maybe give it a little share with your mates or whatever if they like stuff like this, I don't know. Thank you very much for watching, see you next time.